I make my living as a listener. I consider myself a professional listener. And a few years ago, I was taught a lesson about this. I was speaking at Dixon Middle School, and that's a junior high here in the Provo area, and they were having an issue with students dropping out. They had a high dropout rate, and they wanted to turn that around. And so one of their ideas to do that was to hold an assembly with girls in one room, boys in another. And I was with the girls, and there were about 4 of us. Miss Utah was there and a few other people, and we were telling them about scholarships and education can open doors, and really trying to give these girls an idea that even if your parents didn't graduate, you can, and you can do anything. The world is open to you. And I feel like we did a decent job of getting that message across. And I was the last speaker, and so I ended, and then I said, "Are there any questions?" And about 5 rows up, a girl was just had this question. I was so excited to see what fire we had lit in her. And she raised her hand, so I called on her, and she said, "Where did you get your skirt? It's dang awesome." I was like, "Really? That's your question after all this?" Anyway, I told her where I got my skirt, and that if she went to college, maybe she could buy her own awesome skirt someday. So fast forward a few years, I get a letter, a resume, someone wanting a job. And this actually happens a lot. We get a lot of applicants, and we are a small company, so we aren't able to hire very many people. So I'm skimming through the letter, and she says, "You came to my school. You came to Dixon Middle School. I remember your skirt." I'm like, that is her. So I read on to see what she wants. She's looking for a job. Flip over to the resume. Didn't graduate from high school. Got her GED, which is something. Didn't go to college. Looking for a job. And I found myself thinking, wow, if you had listened, instead of looking at distracting things like clothing or skirts, maybe something could have happened. So that's just something I have learned in life, is when you listen, you learn. And that's an important lesson in our relationships and in church and in business and in school. You have to be a listener. So I decided early on that I wanted to be in journalism. I titled my thing today, "Everything I Needed to Know I Learned by Listening." So when I was a child, my sister played school, my older sister. She was always trying to teach me stuff. And I played newscast. I was always drawing the United States and showing where the highs and lows were going to be and then doing my little newscast. She became a teacher, and I went into journalism. When I became 16, I got a job. I lived in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Got a job at the local news station. I was the camera operator. Can you believe they let me do that? Zoom in, focus, give cues to the anchors. I loved this job. I actually have not loved a job as much ever since. I loved that job. And I also did things like the news or the weather guy. Things weren't the way they are now. He had a list of about 15 people he wanted me to call to say, "Check your thermometer in your backyard. What does it say right now?" So I was calling Mildred and all these people in Malad and Preston, Idaho, to have them look at their thermometer to give me the information that we could put on the newscast. So I love that job, but one of the things that I noticed from it is the women that were there tended to have some unhappy personal life. Now I know that this is it just is that case, so this isn't the whole industry-wide, but I found that these women they had 0 or very few children. They seemed to have some unhappy marriages, and they worked just a lot of late hours. And they were traveling and kind of into their skirts kind of thing. And I just thought, I don't know if this is for me. I know that it could be for other people, but I just thought, you know what, I want a family, and I'm not sure I'm seeing what I want to see here. So I decided to become a print journalist. So I went to college, went to BYU, Idaho, it was Rick's then, and also BYU, and earned a bachelor's and master's degree in communications. And loved it. Now my family was large, 7 kids. My dad's a school teacher. My mom did not work. So the math on that was not a lot of money. Okay, so I grew up with the expectation that I was going to have to earn my way through college and just make my own way, pay every dime along the way. And there were times I thought, wow, this is kind of hard. My roommate hasn't had a job for 4 years, you know. There were times I had those thoughts. But as I got closer to graduation, I started seeing the wisdom in this because I had to earn my own way. I was forced to seek out jobs, opportunities, and internships that all culminated in me having a resume when I graduated. I had been on the student newspapers at both schools I had been at and been the editor there. I had done 3 internships, the New Era, the Deseret News, and technical writing one with the government. All of those led to other jobs, full-time jobs or freelance jobs for those companies. So when I graduated, I found a job very easily because I had a resume. And so in the end, I was really grateful that that hardship of having to make my way through school turned out to be such a blessing. It gave me a work ethic that I didn't see in some other students that had life a little easier. So when So in 1997, I had a master's degree. I was working at the Deseret News. Life was good. I was married, and I was about to become a mom. So 15 years ago, last month, I became a mom. And what I didn't see coming is that my two worlds collided. In Laurel class, I had talked about, stay-at-home mom, love it, family is number one. In college and in my career, career, ambition, all of this. I had pursued both paths, and then as they were coming to a collision, it was like it dawned on me for the first time, what am I going to do now? I hadn't really seen it modeled in people in my ward or in my family or in my own mother to be able to do both. And so I was a little concerned. So I worked until about 12 hours before I had my oldest son. Worked at the Deseret News, and then I had my baby, and I didn't go back. I stayed at home. At this time, my husband was working on his graduate degree. He had decided to go back. And we had some savings, and we thought, well, we can live on this part-time student job that he has. No, you can't. We couldn't. Babies were expensive, and we had a car. We had other expenses. And so I started thinking for the very first time like an entrepreneur. I had never planned on that. I'm not related to any entrepreneurs. But because I had a need, I wanted to be a good mom and be really flexible with my schedule, and I wanted to earn an income and do something I loved, then I became an entrepreneur. So we started brainstorming things we could do, and the very first thing, I married a fellow journalist, so we were in the same industry. The very first thing I did was I thought of every business owner I knew, and they were mostly dads of my friends and dads of people I had dated. And I sent them all a letter saying, I have just launched Bennett Communications. I made up this name of my company before it existed with the state or anything. I just called it that. I didn't even know what I was doing. I said, Bennett Communications is on the scene. If you need any editing, writing, newsletters, then I'm your person. Give me a call. Got 3 calls out of the 20-ish newsletters I sent out, and one of those turned into a paying job. It was to put together a media kit for a movie that one of my friends' fathers was producing. Well, that was exciting, and I took my few $100s and thought, okay, what next? What can I do now? And our very first big project that my husband and I launched was called Scholastic News Service. Ooh, that is a fun sound. SNS, we called it for short. This was an idea that we had. My father-in-law is a journalism teacher, and he had kind of kicked around this idea, and we decided that in partnership with him, we would launch it. It's a national newsletter for high school journalism advisors. It's a tiny niche. Okay? We decided that we would print up this newsletter, 10,000 copies, which is that's how many high schools there are in the country, or were then in 1998. We would print a sample newsletter, a sales letter, and an envelope, hand stuff them into envelopes, label them, sort them by zip code, bag them, haul them in my mom's Suburban to the bulk mail unit. And we did all this. It was horrendous. We didn't know that you could actually pay companies that would do that all for a very small fee. We killed ourselves getting these out the door. And as we drove off to the bulk mail unit and dropped it off there, we thought, have we just wasted $5,500? That's how much it cost to print and mail it. And we didn't have that. It actually went on a credit card. So 7 days later, we got our first call, Patty Kennedy from Seattle. I still remember, never met her. But she called to order SNS. And it was thrilling. This was when my entrepreneurial fire just got lit. Wow, she is going to pay $59 for this subscription to this newsletter. As the weeks rolled on, we ended up having about 700 subscribers, which is not a lot, but that's about 7% of the schools in the country, which is a sizable group for a business venture like that. We did this for about 10 years, and it never became more than, I think on our biggest year, we made $25,000. So it was a good thing for me to do as a mom. It was a fun project, but it wasn't something that we could continue to live off of. But we learned from it. We learned so many things. We learned how to use the bulk mail unit. We learned to open our business accounts. We learned to register with the state. We learned about sales tax, all on this little project. And it gave us the confidence and the money to move forward. So in 2000, I had another baby. Is there a way to turn the sound off of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just go like this real fast.
Okay, perfect. So I like to start things when I have babies, apparently. So in 2000, I had my second child. She was a daughter.
Is that good?
That's great. Okay. And we started Utah Valley Magazine that year. So it just turned 12. It's 12 and a little bit right now. So we had this idea that with our knowledge from SNS, Scholastic News Service, that we could launch something bigger. Now, my husband was traveling. At that time, he was the magazine editor for Potato Grower Magazine and Sugar Producer Magazine. Might not sound like much, but in the industry, potato industry, that's like, #1 publication. And he was learning a lot too. So as he traveled around to potato conferences and such, he would pick up magazines. And all these cities had magazines. Moses Lake, Washington, Fargo, St. George had a magazine. He would bring them home. And we would think, why in the world does Utah County not have a magazine? And we started making plans to start one. So in September 2000, our first issue came out. The Thanksgiving Point Gardens opened that same time, right when we were launching it. And so this wasn't my first choice for a cover was Robert Redford, who has still eluded me to this day. But after I worked down my list of people who I was trying to get interviews with, we ended up doing this cover with Karen Ashton. Now, when I look at it right now, I can only see the problems. The lighting's wrong. It's not very good. But at the time, this was pretty exciting stuff. We had given birth to a third child, Utah Valley Magazine. And it's a very demanding child, I'll tell you that. But it was wonderful and exciting. And since that time, we've added other projects. The next title that we added was Utah Valley Bride. Today, I brought some Utah Valley magazines and Utah Valley Bride, so I'm not sure which one you ended up getting. But the reason we started Utah Valley Bride is with Utah Valley Magazine, when we first started, we were trying to be all things to all people. We didn't realize that right off, but we had a business section in the magazine, we had a bride section in the magazine, and we were just trying to do a lot of different things. And we started realizing, Communications 101, sender, receiver, who's our audience here? We need to pick an audience and go with that. And so Utah Valley Magazine stayed true to kind of a family magazine, a community magazine, people, places, events, and we spun out a bride magazine, which we do annually. We switch out the covers seasonally, and Utah County is known for its weddings, so it's been a lot of fun to focus on that. We also spun out a business magazine, like I mentioned before, Business Q. Q is for quarterly. And selfishly, this is my favorite magazine because I consider it my ongoing MBA. We get to pick successful business people in the county, go spend a couple hours with them, ask them questions for the article, questions that might relate to our own business needs. And it's been really fantastic, and the community has really rallied around it as well, because there are such great stories here, a lot of success stories, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of them in this class. And then also we've done a lot of custom publishing. This is the Utah Valley Parade of Homes. We've done Parade of Homes publishing around the state for the past 10 years. And so if you've gone to a Parade of Homes where they have you put on the blue booties and go through all the fancy homes, the magazine, if you went to it in Utah, was likely made by our company. Yes, okay, and this is another custom publishing project that we have. We spun this out about 3 years ago. There are a lot of direct sales companies in Utah County. We're kind of known as the hotbed for that, multi-level marketing, direct sales. And so we started 2 titles, Prosper and Celebrating Women, for those industries. So we feature one company at a time in these issues, and then either the company purchases the bulk of the press run or we sell them to distributors themselves to use to build up their clientele. This was a fun one. There's 5 gold medal Olympians in this picture. They all flew to Orem, Utah for a photo shoot last Thanksgiving. And it was awesome to be in the same room with them. Nadia Comaneci is the gymnast, the second one from the left, first one to get a perfect 10. I mean, the star power in here, you guys are young, but these guys are a big deal in the Olympian world. So that was fun to meet them and be part of that. And then we also do city festival magazines, such as Orem Summerfest. So my life has been busy, it's been full, it's been wonderful. I have a new baby this year. I have a little 8-month-old baby that I almost brought, and I have a picture I'll show you in a minute. It's been very full, and I didn't really plan necessarily to have a full career. I didn't see that in my mom, and I don't see that in my sisters, but that's the way it's been for me. And the trends in Utah indicate a lot of what I have experienced. In 1900, only 13% of women worked. In 1940, which is when most of your grandmas maybe were born, 25% worked. And now 62% of Utah women work. And that's slightly higher than the national average of 60%. So it's a likelihood here that women work. And the most common age period that women work is ages 20 to 24, which a lot of you fit in that category. So you want to find something that you love. And I love what I do. But before you think, oh, this is glamorous and this is all that, I want to show you a picture my husband took of me yesterday. Okay? I was overwhelmed. You can see my baby stroller there. This is at my office. My desk's a mess. My to-do list is really long. And we got done with a couple appointments, and I just thought, I just need a minute. I just sprawled out on the floor, and he took that picture. I think someday my kids will be like, colored pants in knee-high boots. Was that really in style? Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it's a complicated life that I have chosen, and I do feel like I chose it, so I don't feel like I have the right really to complain about it or compare my to-do list to anyone else's, because I feel like I did choose it and that I love what I do. I feel like as women we need to mentor one another, and I know there are a lot of men in this class too, and I hope you'll take these lessons and implement them with your wives and sisters and moms and help understand what it is that we women go through and the goals that we have. But I feel like as women we need to support each other's choices and support each other's needs and be excited for one another. I see that with most women, but not all women, and I think we need to start it. We need to make that change. There was a documentary that showed at Sundance a couple years ago that talked about some disturbing statistics about women in the media. It was talking about family-friendly films, okay, films that you and I have probably seen. Men outnumber women 3-1, so we don't see a lot of women out there. In G-rated films, the most common occupation for females is royalty. Think about that. And in G to PG-13 movies, so again, movies you and I have seen, the most common task they show a woman performing is trying to land a man. So there's a lot more to life. I happen to be a big fan of my husband and of marriage, and I could not do any of this without him. I'm 100% certain of that. But there's more to life than just getting married. There's other goals, there's other reasons that we're here on this earth and things that we need to learn and pursue. Today I thought I would share with you some lessons that I've learned from listening to mostly women, but some men as well, from people I've interviewed. 10 lessons that I think are really applicable to succeeding in whatever you choose, whatever possibility opens up for you. These are things that are important. First is to be positive. This is kind of cliche, but it's very true. This was our cover story just this past July, and Hillary will be coming to speak to you soon, so I don't want to steal her thunder. But she has a great story about thinking positive. She heard that on average we have 300 negative thoughts a day. She didn't think that was true, wanted to try it out, so she bought a clicker, started counting her negative thoughts. The more she counted, the more negative thoughts she had. And by the end of the week, she was depressed. Nothing about her life had changed, but just recognizing the bad things in life, things like the dog peeing on the floor and a stoplight that's not fast enough, all those negative thoughts that we have added up and created a problem for her. And so the next week, she counted her positive thoughts. And I'll let her tell you the rest of the story. But being positive is a huge factor to success. Huge. One of my favorite stories we do every year, it's called High School Students Who Will Change the World. We do it every May, and we feature one high school student from every school in the county. There were 12 schools when we started, there's 18 now. And so with the help of the school, we identify students who will change the world. Well, that's a very broad description, right? We don't necessarily ask for your top GPA, your student body president. We don't ask for anything like that because we just want a student who's going to make a difference. And we want there to be a variety. And so as they come into the photo shoot and interview, I love it because they're so different. You get the band guy there hauling his tuba in. You get the student body president coming in and shaking hands. And you get the athlete coming in wearing his jersey. And you get the senior who makes a grand entrance. All these, the variety of students that come in, I love it. And we ask them all the same questions individually. And they answer them pretty differently because they have different possibilities, different plans. But the one thing they do that is so similar, they all respond the same way when we say to them, how do you feel about your high school? They light up and they say, I go to the best high school. We have the best school spirit. The teachers are amazing. We don't really have cliques. It's just this great feeling at my school. I love that because if they chose to see the other side, would they find cliques? Yeah. Would they see some problems with some of the teachers? Possibly so. They could see problems if they were looking for them, but they are all looking for the positive, which to me is the reason they're going to change the world, is that they're seeing the positive. So I love that, and I love that these youth are seeing that. Now we've been doing the magazine long enough that now we do a Where Are They Now? So 10 years later, we catch up with the group that we featured 10 years previously. And it's really fun to see what they've done and to see that positive nature continue to carry them through. Number 2 is to be persistent. This is something that I have heard from everyone I've interviewed who has succeeded at something. They tell me that. Just be persistent. You just stay the course. You have a goal. You be persistent. And so I had a chance to exercise this myself when I had a goal, a desire to interview Ann Romney. I wanted to do this in 2007. They were gearing up for that presidential election, and we're busy doing interviews with 2020 and cover of Time and all of these things. And I was putting in my requests with the PR people and not getting anywhere. Our July issue is always a women's issue, and I just thought she'd be the perfect person for our July issue. So months go by, and I'm sending requests and getting we'll get back to you when we have time. And I understood that they were busy, but it was just a goal of mine. In fact, I put a note on my desk saying, Ann Romney or bust. This is going to happen. I'm going to meet Ann Romney. Well, time went on, and it wasn't happening. And so I started asking friends, do you know the Romneys? Do you have any connections? And things weren't really panning out. Then I heard she would be in Salt Lake doing a fundraiser, and that if you paid, you could get in and you could hear her speak. Well, I was happy to do that because I happen to believe in the Romneys and support them and really admire them. So I went to the event, and I waited in line and spoke with her and asked if I could interview her for Utah Valley Magazine. And she said, that would be great. Why don't you just work with my assistant here and we'll just set it right up. And the assistant and I look at each other like, yeah, we've been talking for years. A year. This time. But now I thought she'll really help me, right? Because Ann had said that she wanted to do it. Well, busy schedules again. Things just kept not working out. And then fast forward a few months, they were back in Utah, going to be here for 2 weeks. And so the assistant said, I don't have a time, but if you'll just kind of be on standby, we'll call you when they have a few hours. You can just come right up. So I spent 2 weeks ready to go with my briefcase and dressed up, and I went to a family reunion, like prepared to go, just in case I got the call. Never got the call. See on KSL that they're flying away. They left. Goodbye, Romneys. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been persistent. I've been trying so hard. So I call again to the assistant. I see they left Utah. Any other chance? Finally, I get this call that says, look, she has a whole day in California. She's going to be with her horses. If you're willing to fly down there, then you can spend the day with her this Thursday. Well, you can imagine being the editor of Utah Valley Magazine does not usually involve a lot of travel. So I was pretty excited, got to leave the county, got to fly down there and spend the day with Ann Romney. And she was as amazing as I expected, and I really enjoyed my day with her and learned a lot from her and loved to write the article. But also, I learned that persistence really does pay off, and I was proud of myself for sticking with that. Third is be passionate. Be passionate. You have to be passionate about what you do. This is an interview that I did a few years ago. This is Dave Tuomisto, and he has done a lot of restaurants around here. His current restaurant is Milagros on 800 North, but he also started the Bajío restaurant chain and the Marley's restaurant and the Harley-Davidson dealership, and Rose's, which was probably when you were in elementary school. And anyway, great restaurant guy, great guy. So I was interviewing him, and I asked the obvious question to start off the interview. Dave, what made you want to start a restaurant? And he looked at me like, that is the dumbest question. And he said, I think everybody dreams of starting a restaurant. And I was like, I said, I think everybody dreams of starting a magazine. So I said back to him. And we both just kind of laughed because we're so passionate about what we do that we can't imagine anyone wouldn't want to do what we do, you know? And so I loved and admired his passion for food and for feeding people, for new recipes and for fresh ingredients. I've just admired that about him, that passion. And it takes that passion to get you through the hard times. Number 4 is be excellent. This is a picture. Every issue of Business Q, we do a roundtable where we invite industry experts of a particular topic, and we gather together, and I interview them in this conference room, kind of a group interview style. So this is just a picture of that. This particular day, we were talking about starting a business, and these are some of the most successful, wealthy businessmen in the county that we brought together this day. And so I was fascinated by the conversation, tons of quotables, it was great. But the man who I consider probably the wealthiest man at the table said, you know, the older I get, the less impressed I am with numbers and wealth, and the more impressed I am with excellence. And he just talked about the examples of excellence in our county, and that was really what was going to get people through recessions, that's what was going to get people through downtimes, and really what keeps us happy is when we're excellent at what we do. And I loved that quote, and I found that to be true as well. We have a pattern in our company of hiring BYU graduates, oftentimes. Oftentimes they intern with us, and then they are good, and so we hire them, and they get married, and then they have a baby. We had 6 people have a baby. This was 2 years ago, within a few months of each other. So we took a picture of all these lovely ladies. But how this ties into excellence is this. When these employees are all examples of excellence to me, or I wouldn't be sharing that with you, but when they are at our company, they are the ones who are like, I'll do that. Can I do that? I want to make it better. How can we make this better? How can I help you? And then when they get to the point in life where they're going to start their family, oftentimes they come in and we have this conversation where they say, you know what, I love my job, but I'm really excited to be a mom, and I really want to be home as much as possible. Is there any way I could work from home or do freelancing, or could I do this? because they're excellent, I'm willing to bend over backwards for them. I'm willing to say, okay, what are you willing to do? 2 stories a month? Awesome, we'll take it. If they're not excellent, it's not worth the hassle of having all these people around who are just mediocre. Women, you need to be excellent. There's going to come a day when you're going to want some flexibility. You're going to want whatever that might be. If it's a family, great. If it's that you want to, be on a reality show, or you want to start another business on the side, or you need some flexibility, if you're excellent at what you do, the flexibility is so much more likely to be there. Be the person in your group projects that brings the most ideas, that does more than your share. I know that's annoying, group projects are hard, and I used to think that too. But if you're the one who doesn't complain and you're just like, I'll do that, I'll help, that's training ground for being excellent the rest of your life. Because excellence will get you through some difficult times and some challenges. So be excellent. This is just a picture I added to the baby scene earlier. This is my little Lola. She's a poodle. I'm wearing a poodle skirt. That's the connection this last Halloween. She's a lot of fun. And what I have found is that I need that flexibility in my life. And so I've tried to be good at what I do so that, because I'm not in the office all the time, that my employees will still respect me and enjoy working with me, because I bring excellence to the table, hopefully. That's the goal. 5 is to take life in seasons. Now, I just kind of mentioned that a little bit, that women especially have different seasons in life. Jane Clayson Johnson was a good example to me of that. She came to BYU, graduated in broadcast journalism, graduated single. Okay, that was not her plan. She wanted to be married. She planned on getting married. She was not. So she started her broadcast career and did really well, and ended up being a co-host with Bryant Gumbel on CBS early morning show. I may not be saying that exactly right, but top of the game. Did an excellent job and had gained a lot of respect from her peers. Then in her 30s, she got married and decided to quit and to have a family and move away from New York City. And people thought she was crazy, but she was ready for the new season. The thing that I love about her is that she gave the most to every season. We did this interview, it's at the BYU Museum of Art actually, and that's where that photo was taken. She had her kids with her at the photo shoot. And it was kind of crazy because they wanted her and needed her, so we'd take breaks and she would take care of them. But I just feel like I saw close up how she was transitioning from one season to the next. She wrote a book called I Am a Mother. It's a really powerful read for any of you women or men who'd like to read about that. And because of technology, there's a possibility of combining seasons better than there ever has been before. She has done radio and TV and a lot of different things because technology allows us to do some things from home and to really participate, whereas that wasn't an option 50 years ago. So I like that about take life in seasons. Don't take life too seriously. This is Bronco Mendenhall's wife, Holly Mendenhall, and I interviewed her in May. And was fascinated to interview her because she's not someone who's been in the limelight a lot. She doesn't really seek it out. And so I was excited to meet her and interview her. When I go, usually people are a little stressed out. I don't mean to be that way, but like the photo shoot stresses them out, and they've stewed about what to wear in their house and everything like that. But I found her really refreshing because we were taking pictures of Holly and her family, Bronco and their 3 boys. And while we're getting ready for the photo shoot, she says, boys, how about if you wear those navy blue shirts? Don't you all have a navy blue shirt? Yeah, go see if you can find one. And I'm thinking, wow, no one ever thinks of it on the fly. But she was just so not stressed about it. And sure enough, they came back, and 2 of them had a blue shirt, and 1 was dirty, and so we got a brother's shirt, and it all worked out. But I love that she just didn't stress. It's going to be totally fine. And it did turn out totally fine. I just found that really, really refreshing. There have been some funny things that have happened to me with the magazine, and I just have to kind of laugh about it. One was I was interviewing Lloyd Newell, who's the music and the spoken word guy, and I watched him. He was doing something down here in Provo, filming something for the broadcast, and then we were talking about, okay, now we're going to go to your house in a couple days and finish the interview and the photo shoot. And so he's telling me how to get there, and he says to me, do you know Alpine very well? And in my mind, he said, a man's name, Alpine. So I'm like, I don't know Al. He's talking about the city, Alpine, of course, So I just had this total blonde moment. And when other things like that have happened as well. I was interviewing Steve Young a few years ago, and I showed up to his address. It was in Provo. And so I arrived, and I got there, and I couldn't tell where the front door was. It was an old farmhouse that had been added onto and things. And the first door I came to didn't seem like the front door because I could see the laundry room through the window. And so I went around to the other side and thought, well, this door must be it. I knock on the door, I hear his familiar voice say, Jeanette, is that you? Yeah. He says, you're knocking on my bedroom door. Like, oh, so sorry. So just funny things like that have happened. And when we don't take life too seriously, it's so much more enjoyable. So I love that.
5 more minutes till questions.
Okay. Yeah, 7, go with your gut. Okay, this is a magazine that a lot of you got today. This is, how many of you know who this is? Okay, did you guys follow this ridiculous show? That's it. Okay, this is Jeff. He just got picked to be the fiance, the bachelorette picked him out of the 25 guys. And he's a local guy. He owns a business here in town. Well, I'm not into this show, but all the women in my office and my friends were like, this guy is so cute, and you've got to interview him, and it's so hot right now, and all this. And my gut was telling me, don't do this. We are not a tabloid magazine. We feature timeless stories and things that we'll be proud of a year from now. But I kind of got talked into it, and I ran out of time. I didn't have a better idea, and I'm like, okay, we'll do it. We'll do it. So I interviewed Jeff, and I actually found him very likable. We did a photo shoot and interview, and his company, People Water, has done really well, and we featured it also in our business magazine as a startup to watch. So had a couple tie-ins. So I gave in. We did the story. But in my gut, I was like, I don't want to make this story about his love with Emily. I just was like, that is just beyond. So I made this story really about his business, his family, what he learned from his parents, his Mormon background, and the show itself, so the experience of being gone and how did you run your business and all of that. So it barely mentioned Emily, his fiance at the time. Well, while this was still our current issue, they break up, okay? Over. Our story is just, silliness. Okay, I should have gone with my first gut, like, maybe the story shouldn't happen in Utah Valley Magazine. But I'm glad I went with my second gut feeling, which is don't make it about how in love they are and the wedding's going to be amazing, okay? I'm glad I went with my gut feeling there. So as you're pursuing the possibilities in your life, your gut will tell you. Your inner feelings, the spirit, we're lucky to know that term, it will guide you if you'll listen to it. So listen to it, and it'll take you where you need to go. Don't be limited by circumstances. This is Liz Lemon-Swindle. She does beautiful art. You may not know her name, but you have seen her paintings of Joseph Smith and the Savior. She was a single mom, found herself a single mom, 5 kids. And she loved to paint, so she just kept on a painting. And she'd put up easels for her kids, and they would all paint into the night. She wanted to make her living that way, and she ended up doing that. She wasn't limited by I'm a single mom, I guess I'll just collect welfare and just sit here in my sadness. She went after it and really went after her dreams, and I loved that about her. Another example, this is Noelle Picus Pace. She's an Orem girl, Olympian, bobsledder, and skeleton. And she, in preparation for the 2006 Olympics, was run into by a runaway bobsled, totally freak accident, ruined her leg. This was like 113 days, I think, before the Olympics, where she was supposed to compete. Instead of saying, oh, shoot, my career's over, I guess I'll sue the bobsled company, and I guess I'll just sit here and be mad, she's like, no, I am getting back to the Olympics. Went through intense physical therapy, made her way back to the Olympics as an alternate, and then ended up being in the next Olympics as well. Anyway, not limited by her circumstances. Also has started a company with these cute hats, Snow Fire hats. So instead of her saying, I'm a victim, this happened to me, my dreams are over, she doesn't even worry about that. She just looks forward, not limited by her circumstances. So if you have dreams, but you're saying to yourself, oh, but I come from a broken home, or oh, but I have diabetes, or oh, but I have social anxiety, or whatever it is that you feel victimized by, you can get past that, and you need to move past that to succeed. Number 9, be comfortable with who you are. This was Gladys Knight. I loved interviewing her because she was so refreshing. A lot of times when I interview people for jobs or other things, we speak in code as Mormons. We'll say things like, well, I spent 2 years in Costa Rica doing service. It's like, okay, your mission, We speak in code because we don't want to be offensive. But Gladys Knight, she was all about what she believed and her love for President Hinckley and just the gospel. And I just loved that that's who she was. She also did the interview without makeup and Indian leg style with her legs crossed like this, just totally comfortable with who she was, and I love that about her. Chelsea Hightower, she's been on So You Think You Can Dance and Dancing with the Stars. She came to the interview in sweats and no makeup also, because she said, I just want to be able to talk, I just want to be comfortable. And I love that, because she's someone who's in the limelight a lot and didn't feel a need to impress me that way. So be comfortable with who you are. And as you go out into the world and you are LDS and will represent the gospel, be comfortable with that, be okay with that. Be proud of who you are, and be the best representation of that. Number 10, the last one, is to trust the Lord. This is Stephanie Nielsen. She's a popular blogger. How many of you have read her blog, Mini Dialogues? Okay, a lot of you have. Lives here in Provo, not far from campus. And she was a popular blogger even before the plane crash, but she got in a plane crash, was in a coma for 3 months, woke up to burns over 80% of her body, changed her look completely, had to readjust everything, her relationship with her children and with her husband. And she spent some time feeling pretty sorry for herself because she didn't see how she could go on. She was really into fashion and beautiful things, and she did not look the way that she at the time felt was beautiful. So she had to get past that, and a year to the day of her accident, she posted the first picture of her post-accident self on her blog. And of course people loved it and adored it and see the beauty in her. And by the time I had interviewed her, which was last year, she had really come full circle and embraced this plan that the Lord had for her. Because she's been through this hard thing, she is sought after as a speaker and writer and blogger and mother, because she can share such a story of hardship and overcoming difficult things. And it really was the Lord's plan that happened to her, because it gave her a stage and it gave her lessons that enriched her life and helped her succeed in her life as a blogger and writer and speaker and all of the wonderful things that she's doing. So those are 10 of the things that I've learned from listening to people in the past 15 years or so that we've started our company. And I plan to continue listening and learning forever. And if I met with each one of you, I could learn something from you, because we really can learn from each other. So many things. So I appreciate you letting me be here today. I think we have a little bit of time for questions. Is that good? Are there any questions? Yes.
What do you think is the most challenging thing about being a magazine business?
Most challenging thing about the magazine business. People always think it's, oh, how do you come up with all of your story ideas? That is the easiest thing. We have so many story ideas, we can't even get to them all. The hardest part of the magazine itself is the business side, selling advertising and then collecting the money for those advertisements that are placed. The hardest part for me personally is just keeping the balance, keeping all my balls in the air with the kids and work and church. That's the hardest thing. But honestly, it's so enjoyable. I'm so passionate about what I do that I love it, and that I try not to dwell on the hard things about it, even though they exist. Good question.
How did you get enough clientele and subscribers to actually keep this alive? I guess what I'm saying is, how did you launch it?
Right. Okay, good. So in 2000, when we decided to start the magazine, we didn't have investors and we didn't have a lot of money. So our goal was, if we sell enough ads to pay to print the first issue, we'll print it. I mean, we were chicken. We weren't going to print it if we didn't sell enough. We sold enough to pay to print that first issue, plus like $500 for our time. So we made, pennies. But for the time we had put into it. But that was our goal. And then the revenue model is 95% based on display advertising. So we do sell subscriptions, and we sell it on the newsstand. Those are our 3 main revenue streams, but advertising is by far the largest one. So that's a constant struggle. We have ad representatives who go out and meet with the clients and sell them space and tell them what we're doing the next issue and the next year and things like that. But it is tricky. Our subscription base is a combination of paid subscribers and people who receive it for free if they move into a new home or if they're in a high-income zip code. We have a combination of people we mail the magazine to. Good question. Yes?
You talked about the juggle between your family and work. Mm-hmm. What helped you with that, especially with the relationship with your husband?
I could not do this if I didn't have a husband who was so supportive and so patient and so loving. My baby's with him right now. They're having lunch. That's been huge. Oh, he's right there. There's my husband.
We've been listening to you.
Oh, you have? Oh, surprise guest. Honestly, I didn't even know he was there, and I was singing his praises, so you know I mean it. He's just a gem, and we're raising kids together, we're raising these magazines together, and we really see it as a joint effort. Every Sunday night, we sit down and talk through our week. Okay, one of us is home in the mornings, gets the kids off to school, and one of us is home after school, and we kind of alternate that. And so we talk through who's going to do that, who's going to do this day and that day. And that's really essential. And so for you men, be supportive of your wives, and for you women, marry someone or train your husband to be supportive of you, because it really does take a team effort to accomplish the big possibilities that are ahead of you. Yes.
Hey, let's hear. Oh, we have another question.
One more question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of the speakers have talked about husbands being really supportive, but maybe a more specific question is how can a husband be supportive
while pursuing their own career? What can I do personally to encourage my wife to want to further her education or further her career? What's the balance there?
Okay, he's asking how can he be a supportive husband? First of all, just make it a priority. Let her know, I want you to succeed. That I know my success is based partially on you, and partially your success is based on me, and it's a team effort. And to talk about that. And if you have children, to not be like, okay, I'll tend the kids for you while you go do that. But no, you're not tending your own kids. You're raising these children together. And just making her feel like, no, this is great, and not complaining about it or not belittling her dreams, but saying, how can we make this work? I want to make this work. And ask her what you can do to help. She'll probably tell you. But I think just attitude is huge. If you just show a lot of interest and excitement for even the little things that she is interested in doing or pursuing, just have a great attitude and make her feel like, no, this does matter. This matters. In the proclamation on the family, it talks about how husbands are primarily to provide, preside, and protect, and women are primarily to be the nurturers, but it says you're to be equal partners in these roles. And I think we take that so literally. We're equal partners in these roles. Yes, we have this focus and this focus, but when you're equal, you help each other with those roles. And that'll look different for every marriage and every family. And through the years, it'll look different from one year to the next for you, but I think it's important to feel like you're equals. So, good question.
All right, wow, let's give Jeanette a big